let's jump right into it. So the main thing that I've been reading is the spring cornerback battle. And that is taking place between a lot of names being thrown in here. You have the freshman Cade Phillips, you have Santana Wilson, you have Warren Roberson, you have Jaylon Guilbeau on the other side. Obviously, Malik Muhammad is positioned on one side. The other side is a battle between those guys. And I just wanted your opinion on that, Gerald, because you moved Jaylon Guilbeau from nickel back to the other cornerback spot. And I kind of thought, okay, I guess that kind of means it's his spot. So, but there's an open competition.
Yeah, it's a weird conversation to have because I mean, you did, right? You expected when Guilbeau goes inside from nickel, which is a position he played pretty well last year, for him to kind of be the shoe-in. And I honestly hope, because Guilbeau, I think, took a step forward last year. He was much better than I think he was 2 years ago. And so I think there's, the opportunity here, like I guess the silver lining or the sunshine I'm going to pump here is that some of these younger guys might be ahead of schedule, right? They all have the physical tools. We all knew that coming in. And so it's really like, are they up to the speed of the game? Are they up to the level of knowledge and kind of the headspace that they need to be? And if they're competing in kind of in a mess with Jaylon Guilbeau, then I think that's probably a good sign where Texas has multiple options that they likely feel comfortable with. I think Guilbeau probably still has the inside track to it. I think age, experience. He's got a lot of reps in the trenches. He's got a lot of tread on wear on the tires, and not in a bad way. I'm just kind of come up with a better metaphor. But I think he probably still has the inside track. Kobe Black saw some run last year already at cornerback, so I think he probably also is going to have a lot to say in the conversation. Again, this feels like one of those situations and instances where it feels less like a bad problem, more like Texas has a lot of options and guys aren't separating for good reasons, right? Like a rising tide raises all ships kind of situation where they're all playing really well. Texas has a lot of good options. And so it's really just like, who is the best option? And we may see them play around and experiment with some guys, because we've seen it before at Texas where somebody's a really good practice player and it just doesn't seem to click on Saturdays. So we could see a situation where they play multiple units. They play different guys and see how they shape up, because week one, that test is coming early and quick.
No, 100%. And I agree. I think it's fine with the competition being the way it is. My issue is if this goes into the fall ball, then we'll have some deeper discussions of like what's actually going on at that position in spring. I have no issue with that. Yeah, I forgot to mention Kobe Black as well. He's obviously in that conversation. Most likely that's like the stiffest competition for Jaylon Guilbeau, in my opinion, at this point. But it surprised me when I read that it was Cade Phillips was taking first team reps, and then also Santana Wilson. You were a big fan of Santana Wilson.
Yeah.
I also like him, but you're a bigger fan. And then Cade Phillips, I'm not surprised by, because he is a 5-star recruit, but to come in right away and start taking first team reps is pretty impressive. But you're right. They're going to be thrown into the fire. And another thing you have to consider in this era of NIL and transfer portal, of heavy transfer portal era, Jaylon Guilbeau, we know what the floor is. And we talk about the floor all the time on this show. It's important to know what a floor of a player is. And to me, it's like a C plus B minus player. He's a good football player when he's out there for his floor. So if he doesn't win the job, does he transfer? Because I think that's very important what you said as well of, hey, we know what these guys look like in practice, but we don't know in a game. The only two guys we truly know look like in a game are Kobe Black and Jaylon Guilbeau. We have no idea what any of these other guys look like. So are you willing to alienate someone that you've seen play decent football for you? That's my question, number one. And then number two is there a possibility if you lose that battle that you slide him back inside, even though he'd probably fall behind at that point because he hasn't been taking reps on the inside? And those are two completely different positions. Those are two different jobs that you have to be good at. So I don't know how I feel about that. I wish he kind of would have run away with this thing already, but yeah. I do appreciate the competition, and we have talent there. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that I'm like resting on. In the era of the transfer portal, in the era of there's still another portal window to come, right? Post spring transfer portal, it's a real thing. So I mean, it's possible that one of these guys decides to dip, and I think that's the world in which we're living. And I think if it is Guilbeau, that's tough because he's a guy, like I said, who has reps in the trenches. We've seen him on the field. We know what he can do. We know what he's about, and he's a solid player, right? He's a good football player. He's physical, and he probably wants to. I would wonder what the conversations were like moving him from nickel to a more cornerback spot, or typical cornerback spot, let me say, because, is he looking for that Jahdae Barron last year to prove that, okay, I can play nickel and I can play a more traditional corner, and then he goes and gets paid, right? Because that worked out really well for the last guy who did it. So I wonder if that was his choice over the coach's choice, or if he lobbied for that, what it was. I'm curious to see how it works out. But again, you're likely to, if it is somebody other than Guilbeau, then he might test the waters in the portal and see where he goes, because there are a lot of people that would probably honestly pay him a decent amount of money to go join their team and solidify a spot on the outside.
No, 100%. And that's a really good point. I floated the idea about a month before they did make the announcement of sliding him outside. I think they could do that just because they like positional versatility, one, and two, that is good at the NFL level too, because they love that as well. Like, think about it. If you can play inside and outside, guess what? There's more room for you to be able to play and show off your skill set, and allows you to get paid at whatever position fits you the best as well. So it benefits literally everyone. And yeah, it's interesting to me that he would agree to that. And then just there were some weird shifts. We removed Ryan Niblett from wide receiver to nickelback, and he's actually taking some first team reps. Like, I think he's got a real shot with his athleticism to play that position, which is very interesting. And then we're both big fans of this guy, Jelani McDonald. I also floated, hey, maybe they slide him there because he kind of fits that position perfectly, honestly, with the way he plays. So I don't know. I'm kind of getting the feeling this is just early. I've been right about some of these things before pretty early on. I think there's a really good chance Jaylon Guilbeau kind of gets pushed out of that starting role of what I thought he's going to be. Right now, that's just a gut feeling. It's very early on, but that's just my gut feeling heading into kind of honestly almost the end of spring ball, where it comes here quickly, it ends quickly with practice-wise, and then we're off to fall ball.
Yeah, and, I think Guilbeau getting squeezed out of that spot is it sucks for him, right? Obviously, he's a guy who's been really dedicated and committed to the team. But I think if he gets beat out by somebody, then they're probably really stinking good. Because again, we've seen what Jaylon Guilbeau can be, and another year of development in this program is not going to hurt that. So him being at the point he's at, if one of these young guys is able to jump him on the depth chart, then it feels like it's a rising tide kind of situation. And it sucks because I like Jaylon Guilbeau. I think he's a great player. I think he's a decent, a good person. Like, there's nothing to dislike about him. He hasn't been a headache. So like, it's one of those situations where, like, as soon as you sign, they're recruiting your replacement, and it just bears itself out like that sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a guy that we got late in the cycle to come over from TCU, and then there was like rumors of him because he really wasn't getting that much playing time, and he was like a 4-star recruit of, hey, this guy could transfer. He waited his time, played pretty good football when he came in. So yeah, I have nothing bad to say about him. My question to you right now, if it's not Jaylon Guilbeau, who do you think it is going to be on that other side?
If I have to put my like a flag in the ground, I think probably Kobe Black. I think just based on his size, his physical abilities, his time in the seat, right? He's been there. He's already had another extra year of training. He got some run last year in a group that was really solid. So I think he's probably the one that'll put my flag in the ground for.
No, I agree. That's who I would like. He impressed me very much playing outside cornerback. And I said last year, I thought his peaks of playing, which he didn't play very often, but when he did, I thought they were better than Malik Muhammad's peaks. On a play-by-play basis, Malik Muhammad was a better cornerback. Kobe Black, you saw multiple times get burned in a couple games because guess what? He's a young freshman guy that's kind of just relying on athleticism, and he's got a lot of that, and he's got the tools to be build on. So I agree. I think it would be Kobe Black. And we'll see what happens. It's going to be very interesting. I think there's a couple position groups that you got to keep an eye on. I think this is one of them. I think with the injuries, wide receivers definitely one of them now. Tight ends one of them. And then honestly, defensive tackle, the one other defensive tackle spot's going to be very interesting. But everything else, I mean, pretty set in stone. If CJ Baxter's healthy, he's going to be your running back. We know the quarterback's going to be. I think offensive line's pretty set in stone, other than maybe right tackle. I know there's some news, maybe Kojo versus Brandon Baker, but I think we both expect Brandon Baker to win that job. I would be kind of surprised if Kojo wins that job. So that's going to do it for the cornerback battle.